her mindset was, yeah, I carry a gun most times, but I don't plan on using it ever. And I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, I'm worried about the legal consequences. I live in Connecticut. They do not give us the benefit of the doubt. I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Remington, Ballistic Advantage, EOTECH, Smith & Wesson, Franklin Armory, BuildBox, SnapSafe, Hodgdon, Range Ready, SecureIt, and Tipton. Hey, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. Today on Gun Talk Nation, we're talking with Don West. He works with SecureIt. Don, welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
So talk about your background. We were kind of in this, we were talking about criminal defense attorney and self-defense, the legal side of self-defense.
Right. I've been a practicing criminal defense lawyer for in excess of 40 years now. I've not been a prosecutor. I've only been a criminal defense lawyer. I've worked at all levels of that. I've worked for the federal system. I've worked in state system, private practice, kind of the full gamut. It's been a trial practice. I don't do appeals and that sort of thing. So since the beginning, I've just loved the courtroom. I like high stakes stuff, at least from a legal standpoint anyway. And I've been practicing continuously since then, although with my role at SecureIt, even though I'm directly involved in lots and lots of cases, more self-defense cases than I ever would have been just in private practice, because it's all limited to self-defense. Right. I'm not seeing them necessarily all the way through trial. Right. So in some ways I'm interacting with the members early on and then more of a consulting role after that. Kind
of helping them. And we'll get into that of kind of how you guys do that. But I thought that for our audience, being this is a gun-themed podcast, and we certainly talk about self-defense and concealed carry, we talk about the gear, we talk about tactics and marksmanship and mindset, but I think the aftermath part of it sometimes gets lost. Maybe it's not as much the fun thing to talk about as versus, red dots on pistols or something.
Yeah, and it's harder to practice too.
Yeah, harder to practice. Yeah, that's a good point. So, I mean, I guess when someone says, Don, you have all this experience, I mean, where do people mess it up? I mean, what do people need to be thinking about?
Well, of course, before you have to make those decisions, you have then been involved in some sort of confrontation. You have felt that you were threatened in a deadly force scenario. You believe that you are facing an imminent threat of great bodily harm or death, meaning that if you don't respond to that, then you're going to get seriously injured or die. And as a result, you have the legal right, and you may very well choose to use lethal force. Well, once that's out there and you seriously injured or killed someone, then the second phase or the second fight takes place, and that is when you are now the suspect in a criminal investigation. Even if you did everything right, you're still the suspect. The police are going to be there. There's going to be every step of what you did will be scrutinized and dissected and examined, not just in that moment of when you pulled the trigger, but weeks, days, years before. And then of course, what we're talking about right now is the immediate aftermath, the way you comport yourself with the police, the decisions you make, good and bad, moving forward. Yeah. So I guess what you're really saying is, what can you do at that point that you've now successfully defended yourself, but then are shifting to being the focus of a criminal investigation? And
you kind of alluded to it. You kind of have the first problem, the first fight, and then you have the second problem at the aftermath, perhaps. One of the ways we've put it on some of our shows is you have to survive or win the first fight to even be able to get to the second fight. So there's that part of it, which is maybe more of the gun skills or thinking skills part of it. We had somebody on one of our shows, one of our self-defense shows, First Person Defender, with us a few weeks back. And she's a young lady who has got her carry permit when she turned 21. I think she's like 28 years old. And she says she carries most of the time. which is kind of unique, honestly. I mean, not everybody who has a permit carries all the time, and it certainly skews male, right? So she's kind of a unique case, but she lives in Connecticut, and her mindset was, yeah, I carry a gun most times, but I don't plan on using it ever. And I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, I'm worried about the legal consequences. I live in Connecticut. They do not give us the benefit of the doubt. There's the DA or whoever is not real keen on citizens defending themselves with guns, to the point of like she didn't even want to use it. I mean, that's kind of wild, right?
It is, and in some ways it makes good sense for her. It helps her, I guess, modulate her own interpretation of what's going on so that she never puts herself in a situation where she has a higher risk of using it, which is good advice for everybody.
It probably is, especially on this podcast, people who think I'm pretty good at shooting guns. Like, hold on, let's do the mental exercise of how can I not have to use this today? I mean, is that good advice?
Absolutely, because what happens when you do, regardless of how justified you are, you will be involved in a process that may go well or it may not. It's likely to take weeks to months to years to resolve. And if you are prosecuted for a criminal homicide offense of some sort, whether it's murder or manslaughter, and you are immersed in the system, you lose all control. Your lawyer has some input, but you're really at the mercy of the prosecutor and the judge, and then ultimately the jury. And then on your absolute best day with your absolute best team, the absolute best outcome is not guilty.
Right.
You don't get the time back. You don't get the money back.
Yeah.
You don't get the emotional strain and devastation and just the aftermath of the emotional trauma of that. That's when you're right. And if it's a close call and you're really worried about getting convicted, and of course the decisions that resulted in the incident may have been seconds in the making. People can get close and miss it by a little bit. They can be wrong about stuff. And even though they may have a valid self-defense claim, there's no guarantee that that's the way others see it.
You could sort of quote unquote, maybe perhaps win, but end up having to plead a manslaughter or something where it's like, well, that's not great either, I imagine, right?
You know, that's a fascinating sort of subpart to this, is if you get prosecuted for a serious offense like murder, for example, self-defense cases are typically all or nothing.
Oh, okay.
In the sense that a prosecutor has to establish convincingly that you committed the acts that result in the crime.
It was deliberate. I mean,
deliberate,
it was deliberate.
You're the one that did it. Deliberate meaning on purpose, not by accident.
Yeah.
Right? So you have essentially given them all of the elements of the crime, but then you say, wait a second, but I was legally justified because I was facing the imminent threat of great bodily harm or death, and I wasn't the initial aggressor. They may paint you as the initial aggressor, especially if you've got some bad stuff in your social media history or a bumper sticker that characterizes your mental state in a more negative way.
I don't call 911, I call 1911.
Yeah, my favorite is the second shot is the warning kind of thing. Yeah. That's stupid stuff. It's funny.
Is that really
clever,
so that kind of stuff on social media or a bumper sticker in your car, is that really a problem? That is, well, I shouldn't say incriminating, but it could be a problem.
It's one more thing to explain.
Yeah.
And prosecutors aren't known for their sense of humor. They probably won't think it's nearly as funny as you do, especially when they have the goal of winning. They want to win the case.
Yeah.
And
they're keeping score.
They essentially have to figure out what you were thinking at that moment. Because if indeed your response was reasonable to the threat you faced, then your defensive use of force was justified. If it wasn't, if it was because you were angry, if it was because you were panicked unreasonably, if it was because you started it and then used too much force, if it's because you provoked the other person, legally provoked them to come at you just so you could then use force against them, you lose self-defense.
Wow.
If you're in a duty to retreat state and all of the elements of self-defense are present, but you didn't retreat when you could have, guilty.
The new Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0 bridges the gap between a gun that's easy to carry and one that's easy to shoot. Small and lightweight at only 9.8 ounces, but plenty of .380 auto with 10 and 12 round magazines. See the new Bodyguard at smith-wesson.com. For cleaning or maintenance, the Tipton Best Gun Vise 360 sets the benchmark. The ball head accommodates any conceivable configuration. Swappable jaw pads optimize the grip on your gun without the risk of marring. To see the Tipton Best Gun Vise 360 in action, visit tiptonclean.com. Modular safes from SnapSafe offer all the security of a traditional welded safe, but with the benefit of being able to place them anywhere in your home or business without professional movers. Their 2300-degree fire protection offers peace of mind knowing firearms, jewelry, currency, and valuable documents are protected from fire and theft. Visit snapsafe.com to see all of SnapSafe's security solutions.
Range Ready is where we run our classes, rangereadystudios.com. So go over there to check out the classes and events that we have going on. These things go fast. Another little known thing about Range Ready is we will provide you a pistol if you need one for running a class, or even an AR. But there's no charge for that. We don't rent you a gun and there's an upcharge. It's just available for your use. So it's a pretty cool deal. Go check it out, rangereadystudios.com.
The ammo you choose for personal defense is just as important as the gun. Remington personal defense ammo is trusted by law enforcement and knowledgeable citizens. Try Golden Saber Bonded for tough performance, or Ultimate Defense Handgun in your concealed carry firearm. For compact handguns, Golden Saber Defense Compact is specially designed to perform. Go to Remington.com to see all the personal defense ammo options.
You know that Silencer Central makes it easy to buy silencers, but they also have their whole line of Banish suppressors, and the newest one is the Banish Speed K TI. TI for titanium. Extremely lightweight and compact. This is a really cool ultra compact 223 556 dedicated silencer. Weighs only 8.6 ounces. It's 4 inches long, and it has controlled flow technology. We have used this on the range. We've been impressed at how light it is, doesn't change the weight and balance of the gun, and also still very quiet. The Banish Speed K TI from Silencer Central. I'm reminded of something. So I live in South Louisiana, and I had a family friend, a guy who likes to kayak. He goes and kayaks in the marsh. And he's not a gun guy. And he said, because I'm the gun guy, he goes, Ryan, I was thinking about getting like a pistol, like a 9mm. Really? Okay, why? He says, well, I kayak. Well, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Well, I see alligators while I'm kayaking sometimes. And I mean, I could use a pistol. And I related to this, I said, there better be bite marks on the kayak, because you can't just start shooting alligators because they're swimming in the same bayou you're in. And perhaps related, there's certain places where it's like, you better be able to show through a security camera or something that there was a duty to retreat in certain places. Even if there's not a duty to retreat, perhaps that helps your case. I mean,
I think you've hit on something really important there, because, well, we all know if you avoid it, you've won. If you never get involved in it, you've won the case.
Yeah, everybody listening, that's better.
Yes, exactly. So if you could have avoided it instead of standing your ground, but you chose to stand your ground when you could have safely retreated, then you create the argument in a lot of jurisdictions for the prosecutor to say, he didn't have to kill that guy. He may legally have had the right to stand his ground without the legal duty to retreat, but what reasonable person does that? What reasonable person chooses to kill someone when they had an opportunity not to?
Right.
At the end of the day, the jury examines the totality of the evidence in the context of the legal instructions as were the actions reasonable.
Yeah.
So even though legally you may have been able to simply stand there and not go through this open door, if you choose to do that, you're making it worse.
I think it's great advice, and I want to make sure people hear it, because it's like there is that mindset of but it's wrong. I don't want to let this guy get away with it. Whether it's a crime against, property, the guy's got my TV. He's kicking the door of my car, stuff like that. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, Don, is like, look, there is a line when you are in danger, and maybe but there's just, you got to get that out of your head of like, I have this desire to have justice be served. And like, look, you're not a cop. You're not here to catch bad guys or stop people from being jerks.
You're not the jerk police, right?
Right.
So I think that's a really, really important point, because everybody gets involved emotionally in something like that. But I think one of the responsibilities of concealed carry is not to let your ego get involved, not to be your own victim to hurt feelings or anger or the immediate revenge, shooting the guy in the back as he's already left the scene. Right. So that's a crime. That's probably murder. You may get a reduced charge that may become a manslaughter or something to resolve the case. But it's clearly a criminal act, because if you use violence not in response to the immediate or the imminent threat of violence, but after that moment of seconds has already passed.
He held up the convenience store as walking out.
Yeah.
And someone listening go, no, but he could have come back in and started shooting. Well, that could have happened, but it didn't, because you shot him in the back in this make-believe scenario. You're not going to be okay with that.
Yeah, and it's such a shame, because you can certainly relate to the victim of the crime that feels violated by some idiot who refuses to obey society's rules.
Yeah.
And you just can't be the one that gives them what they deserve.
Right. Yeah, sorry, you don't get that privilege.
Yeah.
SecureItGunStorage.com. We talk about SecureIt because they make just really cool products, and we have a bunch of them here. We have the lockers, we have some of their agile safes, and when people come into Gun Talk headquarters, we often get that question of like, ooh, what's these? They're all stacked up, and it's like a cool wall of storage for your guns and your gear, but they do a good job of providing a lot of different options for storing your goods, gun walls, accessories, and you can kind of customize the configuration inside to really maximize the space for what you want it to work for. So you can learn more over at SecureItGunStorage.com. Stag Arms, known for AR-15s, and especially they've got regular ones, and they have left-handed AR-15s, which I appreciate. But did you also know they have a lifetime transferable warranty? No matter what Stag rifle's in your hands, it holds their lifetime warranty. It's also 100% American made. The rifles and components are made right here in the USA, and they have an infinite shot barrel guarantee. If you shoot out the barrel on one of the Stag rifles, they will replace it free of charge. That's standing behind your product. Go learn more over at stagarms.com. Enter to win the Ultimate Builder Giveaway presented by BuildBox. Here's your chance to win from over 100 incredible prizes from top brands like Caldwell, Real Avid, Wheeler Tools, Brownells, Aero Precision, Timney Triggers, Ballistic Advantage, EOTECH, and Tipton, and even more. You can also win guns built on the show. Don't miss out. Visit BuildBoxTV.com to enter and gear up for your next build. You know EOTECH for high-quality optics, but here's a new one, the EOTECH HWS EXP S3 DCR. I know that's a lot of letters, but what does DCR mean? Danger Close Reticle. Provides fast and accurate shots at typical distances, but also an effective close combat aiming point. It's kind of two reticles in one, which is great for an optic like this. You can learn more at EOTECHinc.com. Franklin Armory binary triggers just got an upgrade, the new AR Elite trigger. Of course, the binary firing system is a 3-position trigger. You can safe, you can fire it semi-auto, but in the 3rd position, it fires 1 round on pull and 1 round on release. Now, the new AR Elite trigger comes with premium features, including interchangeable trigger bows. So you can choose between a curved trigger or a straight flat face trigger. Also easy to install, straight, smooth trigger pull, 4.5 pounds plus or minus a half pound. Positive reset. So go check it out, franklinarmory.com.
Don, talk about, I'm out here in Oklahoma City with you guys. People listening on the podcast, they probably hear some background noise. We're here at your offices. You guys provide coverage for people, and you kind of have an interesting approach to it. So since you're involved in that, basically, you're kind of like the first call for a member, right? Talk about how that process works and how you guys handle it.
Sure, exactly. I think that's an important part of our process. Just a little more in my background. I was a criminal defense trial lawyer, board certified for more than 30 years, practicing, as I said, for more than 40. So I made my living in the courtroom trying cases, and a lot of them were self-defense cases. I think self-defense cases are approached differently in court than other regular criminal defense cases. It requires a different mindset of the attorney, a better appreciation for how those cases are presented. It's an affirmative defense. There has to be evidence of self-defense before you can even raise it. It often is very expert involved. The experts could be forensic experts or use of force experts.
Not all attorneys are familiar with defending a self-defense case, right? Is that fair? I mean,
most lawyers will come across some self-defense cases in their career. Most of those will be bad ones where they really don't have a valid self-defense claim. Very few lawyers, even if you practice an entire career as a criminal defense attorney, will have more than just a small handful of real legitimate lethal force self-defense cases. And if you take a further subset of that, when an armed defender has to use deadly force against an unarmed person, which is completely legal if all of the boxes are checked.
But harder to defend, I imagine?
Much harder to defend because of the perception, I think, that juries have going in and the arguments the prosecutors have. So kind of circling back to what you were saying, when somebody calls CCW Safe on the emergency line, that call gets patched through to me virtually every time and in every serious case. And I have my hands on every serious self-defense case. My first assessment will be, what can we do to protect the member from where he or she is in the system? They haven't necessarily been arrested. The police may be on the way, or they could already be in jail and we're dealing with a family member.
Right.
But they need a lawyer. And I think they deserve a lawyer that has criminal defense trial experience handling serious self-defense cases. They need to get out of jail. If you are in jail, you can't defend yourself very well. Your family suffers financially. It is a miserable place to spend a year and a half waiting to go to trial. So CCW Safe has significant bail bond benefits.
Okay.
So my role will be, I'll assess it, I'll get a bail bondsman involved, I will retain a lawyer. If I know someone I recommend in the area, we'll hire them with the member's approval. If the member knows a lawyer they want to use and they're experienced, and I vet them myself so that I'm satisfied, they aren't a divorce lawyer moonlighting, in self-defense cases. And most people wouldn't know how to distinguish. And
my cousin Vinny, he's a lawyer. It's fine.
That turned out well, though. So then we get that process going right away, and we activate the critical response team. That's less known to most people.
That's unique to what you guys do.
I think so. I think it is, and it's a team of retired homicide investigators, peer support professionals that go literally to the scene within a day, or like as soon as they can get there. They interact with the family to help coordinate necessary resources, whether it's counseling, could be temporary housing, it could be any number of things, helping them just understand what the process is, getting the lawyer involved right away, getting investigators on board, and helping bring a moment of sanity to this incredibly chaotic, frightening experience that the member and his family are having right then.
Yesterday, when we were talking with some of your team, Chris, who I think worked in homicide for decades.
30 years. Chris Cunningham.
Yeah, I mean, she seemed like somebody I'd like in my corner. She seemed like an awesome bulldog. But she said a phrase that kind of stuck with me. She said, if you're in something like this and kind of the thing you're describing, sometimes she has to explain to people, the justice system is getting ready to steamroll you. Most of us don't deal in that world. We don't know the justice system. Most of us haven't been arrested, never been to trial. And this is obviously you and your team kind of know how this process is going to go. I mean, one of the ones that was described to me is a guy who, it happened in the middle of the night in his apartment. He gets arrested. He's in his underwear. He literally is in jail in his underwear. And it's like, well, we'll get you out of jail, but you're going to be in your underwear. And you can get you out of jail, but you also don't have a car because you were brought there by a police car. So how do I get home? The next day, his apartment complex evicts him because this happened at his apartment complex. The following day, his company fires him because he's been charged with murder.
Murder. Yeah.
And so you talk about your head
let's compound
spinning.
the problem of not having any pants to wear, a house to live in.
Talk about your head spinning.
And exactly right. And how do you make, heads or tails of all of that that's going on, much less be able to have the presence of mind and the resources to put something in place to help you.
Right.
Now, most serious self-defense cases, I think, offer a window from the incident until the charging decision. The charging decision meaning when the prosecutor decides what charges to file, or perhaps not to file any charges, where an effective criminal defense lawyer working with the defendant, the member for CCW Safe, is able to provide input and information and help the prosecutor understand some things that he or she may not know off the bat about what happened. Of course, you have a privilege, a right not to incriminate yourself and a right not to make statements, but that doesn't mean there can't be a communication of sorts. And at the end of that process, frankly, if you can convince the prosecutor to take another look at the evidence, and the evidence shows reasonable doubt, because the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt it was not self-defense. So if you can get them focused on some important aspects of the case and the claim and the evidence, you may very well win the case by it never being charged.
Yeah.
And that could happen even without an arrest, or it could happen with an arrest, but within a few weeks.
Wow.
So it's critically important, which I think is why it's so invaluable to have a lawyer involved who works and practices in that community, a known quantity.
A local lawyer.
Yes.
You were
a known
saying
quantity.
that.
Yeah, I think someone the
know.
judges know, the prosecutors know, and trust not to blow smoke.
Sure, sure. What other, being that you were in this, family, friends, acquaintances, what do you tell people? Are there a couple pieces of advice that's like, hey, Don, I hear that this is what you do, and I carry every day. And I mean, are there pieces of advice that you kind of would pass as far as an elevator? Hey, look, I can't cover everything for you because I've got 40 years of this, but here's a couple do's and don'ts.
Well, if you fire the gun, you can assume the police will be involved. Absolutely doesn't happen every single time. But in fact, if you fire the gun, you probably should call the police.
Okay.
So there's going to be a police response, which means there's going to be a 911 call. And you're likely to be on it, which means be careful what you say.
They're recording
right?
it. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many 911 calls I've listened to where the person is anxious and stressed and says foolish things, stupid things, and just gratuitous cussing.
Yeah.
That's the first exhibit the prosecutor introduces. You don't need that, right?
Yeah.
So my rule, the tip that encompasses that is first, do no harm. Don't make it worse for yourself. Respect the officers that respond with your attitude. Be cooperative without saying too much. An easy, clear response to someone wanting to question you about what happened is, I'm happy to cooperate. I had to defend myself. I was attacked. I'd like to have a lawyer present with me when I do, or give me a chance to consult with counsel, and we will arrange an interview. Now, you don't have to do that later. If you change your mind, that's fine. But it leaves the door open, and the law enforcement will respect that. Of course, they would do exactly the same thing.
They're giving that, if they're into it in a shooting, they're giving that chance, right?
Typically, yeah. Typically, there's sort of a cooling off period, or a sort of recovering your senses and just dealing with the emotional trauma of that. And I think it's usually about 3 days, actually. Wow. So you can be helpful sometimes if you do nothing more than point out where there might be some physical evidence that would be overlooked. You know, if a suspect ran a certain way, or if there's blood over here, or a knife was thrown somewhere,
sure.
Or if you know the neighbor has a Ring camera.
Yeah, be your own advocate. You know, we were kind of talking about this yesterday. It's like the whole "I ain't saying nothing" it could hurt you if you say I'm not saying anything, and everybody goes away, and the knife that was thrown in the bushes, all of a sudden you bring it up to your attorney the following day, and then they go back and it's not there, or whatever it might be, right?
Sure. Yeah. So it takes an incredibly strong person, presence of mind, ability to maintain and control your emotions to be able to interact like that. Some people can't. Those people that really can't shut up and only provide useful information should just shut up.
Maybe just shut up. Yeah. Okay.
That's always good advice. You're not going to hurt yourself too bad.
No, let's think through this right now. Know thyself, right? If you're like, no, I'm probably the guy that just needs to shut up. Yeah.
And certainly if you did anything that's close, where you aren't sure that you did in fact act in self-defense, even though you had a pretty good feeling for it at the time, shut up. You know, don't attempt to lie your way out of it. And certainly don't, even if you have no intentions of lying, try to talk your way out of getting arrested or what have you. You will make huge, huge mistakes. You'll get the simplest stuff wrong.
Wait, I can explain is probably a bad place to start. Yeah.
And it would be rare, frankly, that you would hire a lawyer who would then agree to take you to the station to give a statement. But that's happened. It's happened in my cases. It's happened in cases I'm familiar with. It might be rare, but a lawyer that knows the police detectives, that know it's not going to be a gotcha kind of interview. They genuinely, sincerely are looking for some missing information, and it works out several times. But you need counsel for those kinds of decisions.
Okay.
And you need the presence of mind at the scene, not to try to advocate, but just provide a little information that would be useful. And I say that in some respects because in some jurisdictions, if there's no evidence of self-defense, the police don't have an affirmative obligation to investigate it, so you just be arrested. In other jurisdictions, if there's any hint it could be self-defense, there's an affirmative duty of law enforcement to find what they can find.
Oh, okay.
So if they don't have evidence of self-defense and they don't have to investigate it much anyway, you're going to get arrested.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's the beginning of the process. You make bail and then you go on with the process. But if there's a way to avoid it, certainly that's the win at that point.
That's the win.
Yeah.
Don, this has been great. Good discussion. I think hopefully it's thought-provoking for people who are listening to this. It's kind of the other piece of the puzzle. If you're serious about your safety, concealed carry, self-defense, this is another piece that you need to think about. So that's it for us. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.
To see all of Gun Talk's content, go to guntalk.com, guntalktv.com, or sign up for the Gun Talk newsletter.